Florida great SEC Network analyst Chris Doering with us on the Alexander Shinora Trial Attorneys Hotline. Chris Doering, how are you, my friend? Good to see you.
I'm good, man. Good to be on with you guys. And Lance, we getting to jump on the weekend there, bro? Is that what we got here?
I already got workout in this morning, up early, and Fridays at 11 o'clock, I try to have a cold beer.
There you go, a little Stella.
I do not begrudge you for that.
Oh, I know you don't. Hey, so I got this weird prediction. I believe Oklahoma is going to be 5-0 heading into the Red River Shootout. I've got Texas at 3-2, losing to Ohio State and in Gainesville. People think I'm crazy. DJ Lagway 6-1. This is going to be a really good Florida team. The schedule is absolutely brutal. But are people already talking about that Texas game?
Oh, no question. I was doing a show last night, and the host, Buddy Martin, who you guys probably know, said he could make an argument that it's the most important home game in the history of the program. I don't know if I would go that far.
Whoa.
I do agree that it is a massive game. It's a highly anticipated game. I got into a little bit of a trouble with some Texas fans the other day on the SEC Network. We did a start, bench, and cut segment with DJ Lagway, Garrett Nussmeier, and Arch Manning. And I had Arch as the guy we're cutting, and it's not because I don't think he's going to be great. It's because we've seen much more proven success on the field from DJ Lagway and Garrett Nussmeier. So I do have questions. There's a lot of pieces that are gone from last year's team. They recruit really well. We talked a lot about what their budget is for building that roster. But coming to the Swamp for the first time, it's going to be a unique setting for them. And Florida has got that brutal 4-game stretch. You look at LSU, going to Miami, getting Texas at home, and then having to play in College Station against Texas A&M. I don't know if there's a more difficult 4-game stretch of anybody in college football this year than what Florida will face.
Did you start Nussmeier?
No, I started DJ Lagway. And here's the thing.
And with that said, get to your point, but I do want – I mean, he's not going to be Tim Tebow, but put DJ Lagway out there with potential with other Florida quarterbacks.
Yeah, here's the thing. As it relates to tying the bow on Nussmeier, I love Nuss. My son was friends with him when his dad was the coordinator here. I have a lot of respect for him. I still get worried about, in clutch situations, him being a little too loose with the football, whether we're talking about throwing it into coverage or not protecting the ball in the pocket. I need to see that improve before I'm ready to go all in. I have him as like my second best quarterback in the league heading into the season. But for DJ Lagway, I look at this guy, he is the real deal. Not only was he committed for a long period of time, didn't waver with his commitment, recruited well around him, but he's like the Pied Piper, man. Everybody wants to come be a part of playing with DJ Lagway. And I think you guys know the most important characteristic of a quarterback is what he does to elevate the play of the other 10 guys in the huddle. I think he does a tremendous job of making everybody around him better. And let's be honest, we didn't see him healthy for much of the year last year. Everything he did was, with an injury. So I'm hopeful that he could be helpful. A lot of rumors about this hernia injury that he was dealing with dating back to high school. Supposedly that's better, but that's one of the big knocks on Anthony Richardson is his inability to be on the field. I'm not saying that Lagway's in that same category at all, but that would be the only thing that I would see that could potentially be a challenge to him not being amongst the greats. And you talk about greats, we're talking about those 3 statue-worthy folks out in the west stands of the Florida field.
Chris Doering is with us on the Alexander Shinora Trial Attorneys Hotline, and you see him on the SEC Network at Chris Doering on Twitter. When Florida was our preview team Wednesday, I said this, Doering. I'm like, I haven't looked at every schedule in America, but I don't think I have to. You mentioned that 4-game stretch. 3 of those on the road. That's got to be the toughest in the country. I don't think anybody has got 4 more difficult games. To reiterate for those that might have missed what Doering said earlier, these are consecutive games. There is a bye week in the middle. At LSU, at Miami, Texas, at Texas A&M, legitimately could have 3 playoff teams, and you play 3 of the 4 on the road. That is just insane.
Yeah, and you're not talking about Tennessee. You're not talking about Ole Miss, a trip to Oxford. You're not talking about, Florida State, who obviously was down last year. But there's a lot of other really difficult games on the schedule. The thing that I like about this year's schedule as compared to last year, you get a chance to ramp up. You got LIU in week 1. We know Florida last year got embarrassed in week 1 against Miami. They weren't ready to go. Week 2, you get USF. before having to play that LSU game. And that's a weird part on the schedule for the Florida LSU game to be. Typically it's either in October or last year it was in November. But that being the first SEC game, you at least have an opportunity to kind of get ready. And that's my biggest question, guys. It's like, how could you be – the coaching job that Napier did last year, turning them around in the middle of the season was tremendous. But the question still remains, why were they unprepared prior to the season? Like, why did you come in and get physically embarrassed the way you did against Miami and Texas A&M in September before getting things right? I do think they've changed the way they practice. I do think there's a new culture in the locker room that's led by DJ Lagway. But I am still a little skeptical as to their preparedness as they head into September, or August and then into September.
Look, he did a great job last year with that schedule. Is he still on a hot seat, though?
I don't think he's on a hot seat. I think everybody wants to go all in on Billy Napier. He's the nicest guy around. You know, he's clearly killing it on the recruiting trail. I don't know how much you guys have seen in terms of the commitments that Florida has for the 2026 class, but there's a lot of momentum there as well. It's amazing what that month of November did last year to help create some positivity that I think honestly carried over into basketball with Todd Golden and the success they had. So Florida fans are feeling a lot different right now than they were a year ago. But I do think there is still some skepticism. So I wouldn't say hot seat, but I would say the leash isn't necessarily as long as it is for some other coaches in the league.
You mentioned start, cut, or bench. If I had thrown Lenoris Sellers in there, does that change any of your thinking? I don't know where you stand on him.
Yeah, I think I went back and, you know, at different times in the year, we're asked to do different rankings. You know, you guys know what summertime radio is like. So we, I want to say I had Lenoris Sellers as my third best quarterback in the league, or maybe fourth best. But I think you can make an argument that he's doing the same exact thing at South Carolina that Lagway's doing at Florida. Not only is he, putting the team on his back, we saw it in that Clemson game. I mean, an unbelievable effort from him. But I think there's a lot of people that want to be around him too. And you guys saw the reports about him supposedly getting offered, $8 million or whatever it was to go elsewhere. So I love his loyalty factor. I love what he's been able to do to create some positivity around there. I'd put Lenoris in my mind ahead of Arch right now, just again because of the proven track record we have from him last season.
I know you might have some bias in this answer, and I forgot where the list was, but speaking of list, last week it was the top 25 coaches of the last 50 years or something. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. I can't remember who did it.
And you might have seen this, but Kirby Smart was in front of, like Steve Spurrier wasn't in the top 10. And look, I think we all agree Kirby Smart, best active coach right now in college football, but I don't think Kirby Smart is in front of Steve Spurrier yet. Would you agree with that?
Well, I need some qualification on this list. You said the last 25 years, so we'd be talking about the 2000s. I don't know that he has the resume from 2000 on that Kirby does. Clearly,
it wasn't. Let me back that up because I know Joe Paterno and Bobby Bowden were both in the top five.
It was the greatest of all time because the question was, is there a chance Kirby Smart's already a top 10 coach of all time? That was the question.
Well, and they had him in the top 10.
They had him in the top 10.
They did not have Spurrier in the top 10.
Yeah, and I can't remember where Spurrier was, but he was not in the top 10.
Yeah, no disrespect to Kirby. I love Kirby, and nobody speaks more highly of Coach Spurrier than what Kirby does. I mean, I listened to him talk about their friendship, and Coach Spurrier was going on and on when I was talking to him privately about how much he enjoys playing golf with Kirby and the respect that he has. So there's a lot of mutual love there between those two coaches. But how can you not? I mean, Coach Spurrier, not only what he did at Florida, look at what the offenses are doing now that Coach Spurrier was doing back not only in the 90s, but in the 80s at Duke. He was revolutionary in the way that he changed the way offensive football was played, not only in the SEC, but everywhere across the country. So I think that has to be factored in there. The fact that you don't have Coach Spurrier in your top 10 is an absolute joke. So I think that completely erodes the credibility of that list in my mind.
Yeah, I can't even remember who did it, but we just killed him. Did you realize in real time, like when y'all are playing, that you're kind of changing – not kind of – you're changing the way SEC football is being played? Like, did that occur to y'all in real time? Like, we're doing stuff nobody else is doing. We're changing the best football conference in the nation in real time.
More so to me than probably any of my teammates, too, because I grew up a Gator fan. I knew the history and the disappointment, and I knew the way football was played in the SEC. You guys remember, I mean, Auburn, Georgia, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Coach Spurrier comes in. Next thing you know, Auburn and Georgia are going 4 wides trying to throw the ball to keep up with what we were doing. So there's no doubt that we saw it in real time. And the way that the game was played, I mean, we were scoring in the 50s routinely. Teams weren't going to be able to run the football and keep up with us. So they had to adjust the way they were playing.
Do you think, random question, because Brown was asking me this coach or that coach?
I've got him if you want me to run him with him.
Yeah.
All right, real quick.
You trying to get me in trouble here?
No. You've got to pick. You have to pick in each category.
Yeah, because there was one that he asked, and I was like, I would bet my life neither one of these guys.
You have to pick first of these pairings to win a national championship, okay? Here we go. You ready?
Yep.
Kalen DeBoer or Dan Lanning, first to win a national championship.
Kalen DeBoer.
All right, you're with Lance so far. Josh Heupel or James Franklin?
Josh Heupel.
All right, you're with Lance. Lincoln Riley or Steve Sarkisian?
Sark for sure.
Yeah,
We're talking about coaches trending in opposite direction.
I knew he was going to go Sark.
I told you that he would be a heavy favorite in Vegas.
Lance went Lincoln Riley. He's never been a Sark believer. Here's the one where Lance said, I would bet my life in neither, but you got to pick one here, Chris. Mario Cristobal or Lane Kiffin?
I wouldn't go as far as what Lance said, but I go Lane Kiffin, man. I'm a believer, dude. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm a sucker, but I just see a different guy, and I see a ton of momentum there. So I don't know. I'm not a believer in Cristobal. We've seen the failures in clutch situations. So I'd go Lane.
My thing on Kiffin, look, and I think Lane he's matured. He's a great offensive mind. He's perfect for Ole Miss. I just can't see Ole Miss winning a national championship ever.
But Lance, you got to look at it now. We're looking through the lens of tradition of the past. Like if we're talking about being able to, the money aspect, it changes the way the limit. I mean, shoot, we saw Diego Pavia talking about what they believe they can do at Vandy. I don't know if I'm buying that, but I think Ole Miss, with the support that they have, and why would you not want to go to Oxford? I mean, Lance and I can certainly look at what the pluses are there going to school at Ole Miss. So I'm in on what Lane's doing.
Do you think there's any drop-off from Dart to Simmons this year?
Yeah, hey, you guys know this being in Alabama. Was there ever more hype about a quarterback from one half of play than Jeremy Johnson with
No.
Was that the Arkansas game?
Yeah, it was Arkansas. Nick Marshall was suspended
Yeah.
for the first half. Jeremy Johnson slayed it, and you had people saying, hey, go ahead and start this kid now. Let's bench Nick Marshall. Let's go
they were
now.
preseason top 5 going into it. He was one of the Heisman favorites.
He was a Heisman favorite in a lot of people's minds. So I would say Austin Simmons, we're talking about one drive that people are fired up about. So I like the kid. I like what I've heard from him. I like what I've seen so far. Everybody talks really well about him, but I got to see a little bit more. So Jackson Dart is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play at Ole Miss. I think there definitely has to be at least a little drop off to begin with.
All right, we had 5 of these so far. The SEC Network's Chris Doering 4 for 4 on SEC coaches in these matchups. The last one: Brian Kelly, Marcus Freeman, first to win a national championship.
Oh man,
it's a tough one there.
I would say Marcus Freeman only because the path that Brian Kelly has to face in the SEC is going to keep him out more times than not. And all the special circumstances that are made for Notre Dame. I think it's no disrespect to Brian Kelly because I like him a lot. I think this is a crucial year for him. But I think the path for Notre Dame is always going to be easier than it is for any team in the SEC or Big Ten for that matter.
You had a follow-up on that, though, right? I took it over. I thought you were going to ask him something about the list.
No, I think both of those guys will win a national championship. I think people would disagree with Brian Kelly. Marcus Freeman, it seems like Notre Dame, first of all, you got a coach you can pull for at Notre Dame, which is almost impossible. You talked about recruiting with what Billy Napier is doing. Marcus Freeman is slaying it.
Is there anybody that's more like, I don't know if you guys have been around him in person, man, but his charisma, his command, his calm, cool, and collectedness, like, you're right, man. I've never really cheered for any coach at Notre Dame, but this is one you definitely kind of cheer for, not only because of what he's doing now. I respect the hell out of guys that played at a high level, that are coaching the level that they were successful players at, and to be able to speak from the firsthand perspective as a captain and great defensive player on that Ohio State team back in the day, like, I really like what he's doing and what Notre Dame's doing as a whole.
I don't know if you overlapped playing against David Palmer at Alabama. I know you watched him.
Yeah.
He
It was close.
He was 91, 92, 93, and then went to the NFL, I think, right?
Yeah. What was his nickname? Deuce back in the day?
Deuce, yeah.
But we played against each other in a couple SEC title games.
I brought this up today, CD. I believe that he could start for 80% of the Power 4 teams at quarterback. Like, you probably never saw him play that position, but in today's offenses, he would have been incredible.
No question about it. I mean, it's funny because usually it was like football was from the NFL down. I feel like it's switched now. It's from the high school up, where you put your best player at the quarterback position. You ask him to do everything for you. And, Deuce was the man. I have a lot of respect for those Alabama teams. We played them in 91, 92, 93, 94 in those successive years there, 3 of those being SEC title games. And, man, just what a great collection of players. And Coach Stallings was the absolute man.
Yeah, and different type of player, because Percy Harvin was more physical. But pound for pound, is Percy Harvin one of the best to ever play at Florida?
Hey, hold on. He is the best at Florida. And I've said this before, and I've taken heat for it. But you look no further than how successful that 2008 team was at Florida versus the 2009 team, right? Both very good, but they were missing something. And what they were missing was the X factor of what Percy Harvin brings. If he played running back, he would have rushed for 1,000 yards easily. They used him back there some. They used him at some direct wildcat quarterback type stuff. But if they would have committed to him being a running back, he's 1,000 yards rusher. This dude is the best player by far ever to play at Florida.
Okay, weird question, just because we're talking about those teams. Aaron Hernandez, did you spend time around him? I mean, seriously, did you think that, hey, there's something a little off?
Not a weird question at all, because here's the thing. Like, Coach Meyer was great about bringing back the former players. And when we would do former captains dinners where we'd come and sit with the guys, and I remember having dinner with Aaron Hernandez, he could not have been more respectful, more kind, more quiet. I saw him another time with my kids, took the time to speak to my kids. Like, it was crazy, the duality of this guy's life, because what I experienced was very different than what you see on all of these sensationalized stories.
All right, he is Chris Doering. You can follow him on Twitter at Chris Doering, on Instagram at CDoering28. See him on the SEC Network. We'll see him in Atlanta in a couple weeks. And that is always
looking
fun.
Forward to it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you guys remember a couple years ago, I made the mistake of booking my trip to Nashville for media days from Sunday to Sunday. I am not doing that. I'm not doing it this time. I'm getting out on Thursday.
Don't do that in Atlanta for sure.
Yeah, we made our plans yesterday. We'll be out on Thursday with you as well. So we'll run hard early in the week.
Let's do it, man. Looking forward to seeing you guys.
All right, good to see you, Chris. Thank you, buddy. Have a great weekend.
All
right, Chris Doering with us on the Alexander Shinora Trial Attorneys Hotline.